In this video, I will show you how to add an icon to this custom browse files or upload files button using Elementor forms and CSS. If you watched one of my previous videos, we basically been customizing the entire Elementor form, but especially this upload file buttons, labels, and in general these upload file fields. So we've created this custom button that says browse files, or it can say anything you want, and we've also customized the label next to it. Now let's see how to add an icon either before or after this browse files text within the upload button. Again, if you watched my previous videos, this is the code that we've used and placed. I'm using a custom CSS and JavaScript plugin that you can find in the description of this video. And now basically we've used before and after pseudoelement. So before pseudoelement is basically our custom upload button, and the after pseudoelement is our custom label next to that button. So now we want to customize further this content of the before pseudoelement, and I will show you three different ways how to add an icon to this upload button. The first way, we will keep this content that says browse files, but we will also add an icon just before that content, and that icon will be basically using Font Awesome. Now Font Awesome is a font that's basically using pre-made, let's say, icons, and you can simply place this icon in a regular text using a Unicode format. Now this is what I mean by this. So we will leave this browse files content, and we want to also create another basically string of content that will have this Font Awesome font applied to it. Now, because this browse files text will have a different font, it can be Open Sans, it can be Arial, it can be any font you want, but this font for the icon itself will be different. It will be Font Awesome. That means that we want to create another set of content. So I will again type here the Unicode for my icon, and this is basically the Unicode for the upload icon. Now you can go to Font Awesome website, and you can find the Unicode format for any icon. This is how it looks like. Basically, if you're on their website, you have the icon here, and you basically want this code right here, and then you just want to copy it and paste it here just after this tilted line. So now we have basically two pieces of content here. We have this icon and we have the text itself. Now the key here is to define that for this first piece of content, we want the font to be Font Awesome. So basically, if you go to this font family piece of code that we defined earlier, you want to type Font Awesome first. Like this. Font Awesome, and then you want to put comma, and then you will have Open Sans. So this first font will apply to our icon, or the first set of first piece of content, and the second font, which is Open Sans in our case, will apply to browse files. And I actually do not need this sans serif anymore. Actually, I don't even need to open this. I can simply write it with a comma. We can leave the padding, we can leave the border radius, font size, let's put it to 15 because I've already tested it. And we also want to set the line height to something like 1 EM. Font weight we can actually put to 400, but you can experiment with this. And display will be inline block. So this is basically how our code will look like now. You can grab it in the first pinned comment below this video. Click on Update, refresh our page, and you can see how this looks like. Now the only thing I want to change here is to add a little bit of spacing between them, and I will simply do that by just adding, let's say, 2 spaces here just before the browse files text. Now, if you want to add this icon after the text browse files, What you simply need to do is just change the position of these two basically pieces of content. So I will first type browse files, and then I will add my font awesome icon, and I will also switch the position of these fonts right here. This should actually be written together. And now let's click on update, refresh our page, and there you go. And then we will apply the same trick that we will add just a little bit of spacing here. And this is how you can add an icon after. So you just basically switch the position of these two pieces of content in the content section of your before pseudo element. Now in the second way, I will show you how to use a custom icon for this button. It can be ideally, it would be an SVG icon that maybe you designed. So let's see how to do that. We will start with the same CSS code that we just wrote, and we will keep basically the same code here for the before pseudo element. But in the content section, let's first remove this font awesome Unicode format. We will leave this browse files part of the code here. So we want to keep that text, but before the text, let's add a custom icon. Now to do this, just before the browse files bit of the code, I will type URL, and then in this URL section, I will actually link my SVG icon that I uploaded to my media on my WordPress website. So if you go to your media, and you can upload your SVG file there, and ideally I would recommend creating an SVG file of the exact dimensions. For the purposes of this video, I created an SVG of 20 pixels height and width, and I've uploaded it here. Then if you click on this file, you can get the file URL. Just click copy URL to clipboard, then go back to your CSS, and after URL, just open the parentheses and paste this code or this link to your SVG file here. And then you can leave this browse files bit of the content here. If you remember, we will just add maybe 1 or 2 spaces here. And the remaining bit of the code we can leave as it is. Let me just check. So we have the color, font size, font family. We don't need font awesome anymore because we are not using the font awesome icon. So I will just leave this to open sans, and everything else can be as it is. I think we can even remove this line height, but you can experiment with it. Click on update, and if we refresh our page, you can see how this looks like. Now you can experiment with the paddings, with rounded corners and so on. So for example, border radius, let's say I want to put it to 25 just to create a more rounded button. Now the slight issue with this version is that ideally your icon would have the same line height as your text. So if we used a text of 15 pixels font size, then ideally you want to use an icon that has 15 pixels. Otherwise it will create this kind of it will be slightly shifted, and it's a little bit more complicated to adjust the position of it. So because of this, I will show you the third way to do this, to put a custom icon in this button, but where you can control the exact position of that custom icon. So this would be actually the third version. And again, we will start with the same code. And in the content section, I will completely remove this SVG, this URL that I put. So I will just keep the text, and actually for this version, I can remove this extra spacing. So I will just type whatever I want to be shown in my button. And how we will do this version is to use background image. And in this background image will actually be our SVG icon. So I will type here background image and then URL, and in this URL I will type I will actually link the SVG that I just showed you from my media. So I will type that link here, and then what you want to do is just style this background a little bit. So first, the background repeat would be set to no repeat. This will make sure that basically our icon is only showing once, so it won't fill the whole background as a pattern. And then the next thing is that I want to set the background size. That will be, in my case, 20 pixels by 20 pixels. You can set this to anything you want. And now the most important thing is to control the background position. Now let's first just see what this does to our button. Click on Update, and let's see how it looks like right now. So you can see that we've added the icon, but we need to adjust its position as well as the padding. So first, let's start by moving these text browse files a little bit more to the right so that we have some space for the icon. So this padding right here, I will actually change it to say something like 10 pixels on the top. On the right, let's leave it to 15 pixels. The bottom will be again 10 pixels. And on the left side, we want to increase this padding so that we have space for our icon. So I'll put 45 pixels on the left side. So basically this is top, right, bottom, and left, these four values. And let's click on Update and refresh. So now you can see that we have more spacing. The only thing left to do is to adjust this position of this icon, which we will do using background position property. And let's say that I want this to be something like 15 pixels and 11 pixels. And if I click on Update, let's see what this does. And in my case, this is exactly what I wanted to achieve. This 15 pixels is basically the position on the left side. So if I set this to 10, you will see that it will create less of a padding on the left side. In my case, I want to move it a little bit more to the right, so I'll put 15, and 11 pixels is the position from the top. So that will enable us to control and to center this icon really in the middle of our button. You can play with these values, you can play with the background position, with paddings, and so on. But this way you can achieve basically a custom icon, custom SVG icon, and you can position it really very precisely and control, simply control its position in the button. So that's it. I hope you like this video. If you have, don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe.